We can't say the future without AI. I mean, there's no way around it. 50% of workers now believe AI is going to improve their experience. When I come into the meeting room, I need a way to incorporate my AI with what's going on in the meeting. It's almost a bring your own AI type of a concept. Most of what we do in our day-to-day is going to change significantly.
Hear the latest AV trends and predictions in this episode of Crestron's Smarter Spaces podcast on your preferred podcast platform.
This weekend, when I was watching Rory McIlroy win the Masters, and the closed captioning was going on, because of his Irish accent, I can't remember the exact words, but they got a few words that were wrong, and it was a little bit funny to look at it, but it wasn't. They didn't get it right.
Yeah, I mean, let's always cast aside that, right? I'm always this unique special case from this island. Take the United Kingdom, for instance. Welsh, Scottish, Justin, Ireland. What are we? Justin is in Ireland. I can't. There are days when I don't get Justin, right? Like, what did he say? Let's run that back.
I can see the view more. Was he Mombo?
Right. What did he say?
Said as his age, he only chopped him down because he couldn't see the view no more. Was he Mombo?
What did he say?
On this episode, we discuss broadcast, tariffs, AI, and cables. All that and more on EDTech. EDTech episode 129, You a Mess. Hello, AV friends. Welcome to another episode of EDTech. As always, we have our panel of awesome higher ed AV professionals. Ernie Bailey. Hey, Ernie.
Hey, Aaron. Good to see you again.
Yeah. And Rob Raspberry.
Hey, Aaron. Glad to be back with everybody.
And of course, Scott Tyner. Hi, Scott.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here.
Yes. And today's special guest joining us for this episode is Lyle Waldron from the University of Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome, Lyle.
Hi, Aaron. Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So how about you tell everyone what you do over there?
Oh, make magic with no money, apparently. And with an ever-changing global environment, it's only going to get worse. But my name is Lyle Waldron. I am the manager of multimedia and audiovisual services for the University of Trinidad and Tobago. So, I mean, I said make magic in jest, but it's kind of true. I get my faculty to have as close to an experience as your faculty has, but sometimes on 1/10 of the budget.
Right. Magic indeed.
Yes.
So, all right, let's jump into the articles that we read for this episode. The first article comes to us from System Contractor News on avnetwork.com. NAB 2025, Tariffs, Convergence, and the AI Killer App. This was written by Mark Pescatore. So there was a few different directions that we can go with this one, but let's start off with the idea of convergence. So we always talk about AV and IT converging, but what about AV and broadcast? Like, what kind of impact does this have on the design and technology that we're using in educational spaces?
I think over the years we've seen it come together and separate and come back 2 or 3 times. I am excited to see us looking at broadcast quality equipment, and it's becoming affordable again. I mean, the cameras that we're putting in our classrooms and the audio systems, it's not really broadcast grade. We're more in performance grade audio systems, but broadcast grade cameras, displays, making everything look good. And with the technology savvy students that we're seeing, we almost have to be there because they're used to seeing this all the time now. And, but I think it's a good thing. And, if we see less separation between the two, then we should see better quality on both sides, I would think, because our manufacturers are not making separate devices for broadcast versus higher ed versus K through 12 versus TikTokers.
So it's very interesting because, education can be a very visual medium. And I think the technology closes the gap as we've seen over the years. I mean, I started with back when 360p was, the thing, and then gradually 720, 1080 to 4K, the instructional designers learning more production techniques to make, the online courses more viable, more interesting. So I think just as technology advances, I think that it was just a natural thing for the broadcast quality to sort of bridge the gap and head over into, the higher ed space.
I mean, from where I'm at, Aaron, it's kind of the other way around. What I found is that because of like consumer level activities, including like a lot of YouTube and a lot of live streaming stuff, we've seen broadcast kind of bend the knee. And I mean, this is something that we've gotten accustomed to now from the cable networks, but even like your standard Fox 5s, your CBS News. There was a time where you would never consider cell phone video as a part of like proper broadcast content. But now, like if you're an ESPN fan, Adam Schefter is in his car or in the airport on his iPhone, and that's now broadcast. So it's kind of like redefining what broadcast is, and that's where the advantage has kind of come in for higher ed. It's in some ways allowed some of us to soften some of those older rigidities that we had. It's allowed a separation, kind of the 4K, 8K people, which is like real broadcast, from the 4K HD plus people, which is like super YouTube, so like Marquez Brownlee and like those kinds of content creators. And then it trickles down, at least for a lot of us in classrooms that have no real sense of, even when we're really pushing to 4K as a constant. So it's allowed like a lot of kind of 4K like equipment that will definitely give you very good downsample 1080p. It's dropped the cost on that so much, so it's allowed like a ton of people to have teaching labs and like a lot of lecture capture stuff. And we're seeing it in our Zoom rooms and Teams rooms and those kinds of spaces. So I've always kind of looked at it on the other way around, the democratization of those tools and the kind of broadening of it into that, streamosphere, YouTubeosphere has kind of really helped us out from a budgetary perspective. Because the schools that had the money to go proper broadcast, SDI everywhere, like, 4K cameras, end-to-end 4K, it's never stopped them. But now even they can like hit scale because of it. So
that was an excellent perspective. Like I hadn't thought about the effect that AV would have on broadcast, but you're absolutely correct. Like it is amazing what would have never been considered in the past is now like, oh sure, let's just throw it up there and see what sticks.
It is standard. Yeah. And I think too, that's also a result of the change in demographic, and that demographic is our core, right? Our students. So like, I mean, let's be fair, our parents would like the nerve that you could show something like this on television. All right. But now it's when COVID hit, I remember radio stations in the States, down here, everywhere, they were like sending out these quick packs so that people could broadcast from home, right? A couple of television stations did the same thing. So like, they got their hands on a Sony PTZ camera, so you get like really good video. That is done. Good audio now is a wired iPhone headset. Like you literally see people holding the microphone like this, right? And yeah, you know what I'm saying, right? They're like in an airport, and like a ton of things happening around them. It's like breaking news. Patrick Mahomes won another Super Bowl, and that is now okay for the people that we are targeting as our core demographic. What they do want to see is polish and finish. So I don't think, because of the screens as well, that our core I don't want to call them kids because most of them are adults, right? They're not going to be 4K screens any which way. It's a lot of cell phones, some tablets, on the highest end, some nice laptops. Beyond that, the content that they're really eating all day long is 1080p plus, which is what I kind of like to call it, right? So again, it's kind of helped us that it's softened things on both ends. Because I'm not too sure, and I don't have any data to support this, so this is just totally my gut feeling. My gut's gotten too big. I need to lose some weight. But my gut feeling on this is that if you were to actually poll students, they're not going to care if it's super polished 4K, 8K, right? They just want to make sure there's a continuity and a flow and access. Like students will always come back to, can I access it? So that if I had a choice, and this would be a dilemma, we're at Johns Hopkins and we've got funding and we could do this super studio with all the 8K stuff, whatever is the case. Or I could take that same super funding and get like 10 or 12 rooms for spread. I think I may lean to that 1080 spread. and get more access for more students than just, super tall verticals.
So there was another part of that article that involved tariffs. And now I know that last episode we'd already kind of discussed tariffs a bit, the great unknown, and things aren't any clearer this month than it was last month, and manufacturers are rolling out price increases, then taking them back, and but since it was brought up in that article, I wanted to get Lyle's point of view on this, since you're dealing with tariffs in a different way. So if you're purchasing something from a US based company, what is the impact for you?
So this is where I think the isolation of the American singular person, sometimes from the world, has caused some problems. American soft power has really worked really well. A ton of us in the globe have become dependent on American brands, American customers, American consumers, American services. And we now have a serious problem. So take, for instance, my neck of the woods. Anything I'm buying in terms of electronics, even though it may be an American company, is probably going to be made in China. So unless I can arrange new logistical routes from China directly to Trinidad with the manufacturer's blessing, which is never going to happen, I'm now going to have to pay double or triple tariffs. So that means if a projector, let's just say, was $100, with 145% tariff on it, it's now $245. Now, when that tariff was hitting me in Trinidad, we do have our own tariffs on all electronics, not just from the States, contrary to popular belief, from everywhere. For a small country like us, it's actually trying to get us to restrict usage of foreign exchange. So it's not because we don't like the States or we don't like England or we don't like Italy. It's because we don't have unlimited US dollars to spend. So if you were to have a no tariff situation for us as a country, one, we don't make half the things here, so we're going to lose some revenue from our treasuries. But more importantly, nobody's going to buy anything in Trinidad anymore, right? We just buy everything wherever else and pay the logistics to get it here. So what I'm looking at now is that $100 projector, as the example, could cost me as much as $400 US in 1 week. So I currently have like an order out for like 16 units or something like that. It may go down to 4, which means instead of me being able to touch 16 classrooms, I'm now going to be able to touch 4. So this is going to have, I think outside of all of the other wars that higher education is fighting right now in the States, I think the thing that a lot of people have not realized is the downstream roll-down impact that tariffs is going to cause. So at a minimum, I just had an email with with one of my people in finance. At a minimum, it probably means at least for the next 4 years, the development of higher education institutions globally is going to take a massive slowdown. I would actually suggest, except for China. It's funny, the thing that we're trying to corral is the thing that we're actually unleashing. China is very self-dependent in that regard. So the Chinese version of MIT is not going to have any problems accessing tech. They weren't ordering their tech from the States. So I'm now reconsidering using Huawei switching equipment. I have no choice. I have to reconsider a couple other things. But I think the outsized impact of what is going to cost to run a university right now, and that is within the continental US or internationally, it's going to go up by 200 to 300%. And I think a lot of people, we've not seen it as yet, so you don't understand. Watching Crestron or Extron or Creamer throw some prices up, and then throw it back down. There's one thing like I disagree with what you said, though, which is like we don't know. We actually do know. We know for the next 4 years, we're going to have a ton of, at a minimum, uncertainty. But I'm pretty certain it's going to be very difficult and it's going to cost a lot. Those are the two things I'm very, very certain of.
I think the interesting piece of that too, so prices are a really interesting piece, but I think what we're starting to see now is this idea that some people are buying up and stocking up and stockpiling stuff. It kind of reminds you of COVID, right?
Yeah.
Right now, there's no tariffs. Load up all this stuff it might even be for 2 or 3 years out because it's going to be cheaper right now than it is going to be in 2 or 3 years. And so you've got this weird thing. We've done it with computers here where we've bought computers that are the current model of Dell, even though we know there's a new model coming out. So we've bought computers that we know are obsolete by the time they're in somebody's hands. But it's in order to avoid a 100% increase.
Mm-hmm.
Friday, I was looking at buying some new gear, and I actually called the manufacturer and said, "What do you have these in the U.S. if I make a purchase next week?" He said, "We've got a real good stock right now."
Mm-hmm.
And this was something that when I was looking to buy it 4 months ago, same product, they said, "Let us know so we can get some coming on a ship."
Mm-hmm.
Well, they apparently got more. So I'm in good shape for what I'm needing right now, but I don't know how long it's going to last. But, I thought exactly what Scott just said. This sounds like COVID. They're stocking up. It's the U.S. office of a Chinese company.
Another topic that was brought up in that article was AI translation, which ties nicely into the next piece that we read, which can be found on Rave Pubs, written by Scott Tyner. AI and translation tech are transforming accessibility in AV. So, Scott, do you want to start us off here?
Sure. I have always found some of these accessibility issues to be some of the most exciting stuff that we do in AV, particularly in higher ed. I always look at closed captioning as one of those things that 15 years ago, it was odd to walk into some place and see closed captioning. And now I think I read the other day that something like 40 or 50% of people under 30 even are using closed captioning all the time. So it's a thing that people are doing. And I think it's because you realize that it helps everybody, whether you necessarily need that accommodation or not.
And we're seeing new requirements for that in education coming at any of the new policies coming out right now state that, a certain percentage of anything you have has to be closed captioned, and anything new has to be. So, I mean, we've dropped some of the services we were using for streaming because they didn't offer it.
Yeah, and so when you add AI into that, you add language translation into that. It makes it all so much more accessible to everybody, and just provides, if our industry is about experiences, it just provides a better experience for everybody.
And what's also sort of cool about that, Scott, is that as the AI develops, and you talk about closed captioning, and we always had the accuracy issue. Even when you're, doing captioning or streaming on YouTube or whatever, there's a certain percentage that gets sort of missed. And I think as the AI gets better, that even makes it even more valuable, to any kind of captioning content that we're using.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the speed at which these large language models are training and improving it. Yeah. They are getting the translations, or the captioning is getting so much more accurate.
We're also finding that a lot of our professional presenters, if you will, those that do a lot of speaking, are becoming more articulate to make sure it's translated right. We had a point, we are the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences, or UAMS. Well, the early AI translators were calling us UMS.
You're a mess, Ernie, you're a mess. This is funny though, Aaron, because I can't make this stuff up sometimes. I literally just had a meeting with a vendor earlier today. And one of the things I have to do for my renewal this year with them, I'm gonna keep the names nameless to protect the innocent. But we had to remove the transcription packages from our plan. And part of the concern I had is if I have to go all in on it financially, because I have to do my cost benefit analyses, while everyone has said is true. I love me my AI. Siri runs my whole house, even here in Trinidad. But the going joke I had with my rep is look, I can't for the life of me get Siri to set, I have to be careful here, because you know how she behaves. I can't for the life of me get the person to set a 50-minute timer. That's 50. I can't. I always get 15. And one of the concerns I had is that just like the continental US, where there is a big accent gap just on the East Coast between Baltimore, New York, and Massachusetts, spread it out to the Midwest, Wisconsin, bring Ernie up from Arkansas, carry it all the way to LA, we now have these cultural language things coming in. All right, so how is this model that's trained primarily on an American English language going to function for me in Trinidad and Tobago, southernmost islands in the Caribbean, with our unique accent, our unique sing-songy cadence, how quickly we speak, and should I be paying X amount of thousands of US for that, not knowing what it's going to be like? Now, to the vendor's credit, they're like, Lyle, that's a good point. Send us some vids and we will throw it in the system and we'll keep sending you results until you think it's where you want us to be. But again, for me, I think part of this internal closing off that's happening is that everybody's forgetting the tip of the iceberg is where y'all are at. There's the rest of the iceberg, which is where everybody else is at. So this is where the question then comes. For me, again, I don't dispute anything that was said. Not going to be the contrarian today. Oh, no. But I do have major concerns about a female petite faculty member I have in the south part of the island that may sound a particular way as compared to a female person from the northeast or from the other island, or the guy who's in the central portion, because we all have these little different twangs. And how is it going to work out, right, in terms of accuracy and everything else? So it is something I'm looking forward to, but it's ironic that we just had that conversation like an hour ago.
It's a funny point that you say that, because this weekend when I was watching Rory McIlroy win the Masters and the closed captioning was going on, because of his Irish accent, I can't remember the exact words, but they got a few words that were wrong, and it was a little bit funny to look at it, but it wasn't. They didn't get it right.
Yeah, I mean, let's always cast aside Lyle, right? I'm always this unique special case from this island. Take the United Kingdom, for instance. Welsh, Scottish, Justin in Ireland. What are we? Justin is in Ireland. There are days when I don't get Justin, right? Like, what did he say? Let's run that back. So, it is, and the good news is, the one thing I think is the central takeaway is it's getting a lot better, a lot faster. So the expectation that it's going to improve, at least for me, for all of us, it's there. I remember when Siri could not do much for me at all, being in Trinidad. Now Siri runs my whole house. We good. Turn this on, this off, that off. We good. Siri treats me well.
As long as you're not boiling something for 15 minutes.
Yeah. For 15 minutes. There's that. But fun fact, I now do 51 or 49. I never do 5.
Oh, there you go.
I had to find a workaround.
Amazing. The last article that we read comes to us from AV Magazine on avinteractive.com. New standard for 8K displays rivals HDMI and DisplayPort. Another standard.
Another one.
And, right, DJ Khaled, another one.
Yeah.
Do we need this?
I like the concept. But what's going to power my display? They say I can send the power down the cable, but what's the power source? It's not PoE. And I mean, I've got a 90-watt power supply on my laptop that I'm using to provide the signal to the display. That's not going to power a 240-watt display.
Well, I'm hoping it may be bidirectional. So, because we usually plug displays in, maybe the sync could get power from it instead. So, I'm hoping. But I'm actually kind of bullish on it. I think one of the things I love about HDMI is it's just been so ubiquitous for so long and so good at what it does. But lest we forget, we kind of settled into HDMI. HDMI really was a home thing that was supposed to be over there. And we were going to do our thing with DisplayPort, and it never happened. And we've now kind of been pigeonholed into USB-C, which is great on so many levels. I'm a USB-C addict myself. I mean, for crying out loud, Erin, my coffee frother is USB-C rechargeable. All right, everything in the house is USB-C at this point. But USB-C is not the greatest connector. One of the things I loved about the old Lightning iPhone connector is that the dependency was not on the device, it was on the cable. So I could break the cable and I'm fine. With USB-C, we have that tiny little board that's inside there, and we have a ton of ports failing on laptops and MacBook Pros, and it's not the world's greatest connector. And unlike the good old days of VGA, we don't have like those, hard screws that we would use, or like the SDI connections and all that good stuff. So I'm all for someone, and I know the geopolitical tensions are what they are, but I'm all for someone saying, hey, let's see if we had to do this from the ground up, no holds barred. What would we want? What is it going to look like? At a minimum, it gives us a chance to see, I would say at a minimum, how everything else is not as epic and as central as we perhaps think it is because we've just kind of accepted it.
Of course, when I first read the article, I was like, 8K. I don't have to worry about that for a while. We're not even 4K. But yeah, I mean, the concept is interesting. Of course, then another like USB-C looking cable to confuse with the other cables that are.
Well, they say it is compatible with USB-C.
Well, right.
So.
Yeah, because then of course, and then what would happen if somebody plugs their phone into it or something like?
Well, what should happen is it should go to the slowest thing on the bus. So, I mean, again, if they get all the ducks in a row, it should easily fail over. But once the two devices detect that they have this protocol and all of the wires are in the cable, which is the other thing that we often forget with USB-C, right? Once we know, okay, transmission medium, check, device check. It's like Wi-Fi 7 and Wi-Fi 8, right? Wi-Fi 7 is there. But how many of us have antennas that are Wi-Fi 7? How many of us have phones that are Wi-Fi 7 or laptops? But it's there. So, I mean, this really is just an issue of, in my humble opinion, about bandwidth and trying to find means and mechanisms for both the bandwidth for signals and power delivery. You're right, Aaron. When I saw the 8K, I was like, but it was like a split second because I understood what it was. What it really is can we move 4K uncompressed video? Can I move 4K uncompressed video? And how many of a gigabits do I need to do that? Oh, and by the way, can I get 240 watts down this channel as well? And I think that's where it's at, Ernie.
I think that's the answer to your question. What happens when you plug your phone into this display? Oh, well, it's going to drain the battery. Yeah. I think it's a very interesting concept. I would want to see network running down at the same time if you're running one cable. But yeah, I want to see how we're going to power things. Where's the power source going to be? What are the requirements for your source material? But we started building a 4K infrastructure and even 8K in some of our rooms, even though we're not putting in 8K displays or any 4K sources right now. When we do get to that point, we don't have to rewire and replace all the hardware in the rack. We just change the endpoints, and we'll be able to pass the signal along. And I think we're seeing the same thing here with this. And, this will handle 8K video.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what their use case setup looks like where exactly the other end of that cable is plugging into. Are they assuming that there's always going to be some sort of video switch or so I mean that's because then the switcher is going to be plugged in to something power, but it's right. And then because then I can imagine if it's plugged into something that's powered PoE, and then you're trying to power screen also, that's gonna be it could bog things down a bit.
You'll take your network down.
PoE plus squared. PoE plus to the fourth power. Yeah, listen, I think Ernie hit it nail on the head. I think it's a proof of concept. I think really for me, Ernie, it was just hey guys, I don't think we have to settle for this thing and keep forcing adding things to USB-C or even HDMI as a protocol. But, beyond that, two things I'm expecting with it. One, I expect it's not going to be proprietary. One of the ways the Chinese get adoption is they go open source. So that was the whole thing with DeepSeek that made it a thing. It's because technically it's open source. You could download it yourself on a laptop from small to big, do what you want to do. So if there's an open source standard that's being actively worked on, refined, that's being put into technology that's flooding the rest of the world, because there is a rest of the world, then there will be little barrier to entry for any of our pro AV or consumer AV people for throwing that in there as well. Maybe. One asterisk in all of this for me though, Aaron, is keep in mind, outside of these tariffs causing Apple strife, Apple has been leaning towards a portless phone for some time now. And we hate it or we love it. But when Apple releases an iPhone, it dictates our life in higher ed and AV. Just depending on what they feel like, our lives can change. So is any of this going to, copper or nothing. But if this thing really goes wireless, we're seeing the new Bluetooth standards come out increasing range and bandwidth, we're going to see Wi-Fi continue to march forward beyond gig into probably 10 gig speeds. We have millimeter wave on 5G. It's never really come to where it was sold and promised, but it's still marching on. We're seeing the advent of satellite tech, not just from Starlink, everybody else. So where are we going to be wirelessly? Does it matter if wirelessly we're there? That's kind of the thing that's in the back of my mind. Very good POC, proof of concept, but beyond that,
You do notice the device they show in the picture has two HDMI connectors right beside it.
Yes,
Right?
right
Yeah,
next to
kind
it,
of
yes.
defeats the one cable thing, but okay. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate it, guys. And thank you so much, Lyle, for joining us.
I'm mad I missed the tariffs conversation. I think I would have had a couple ideas on that for you.
Right?
to put it nicely. Let's put it that way.
Lyle, where can anybody get in touch with you after this episode airs?
Yes, I've been doing this old school thing. Everybody could email me, first name dot last name at UTT. I'm sure it's going to be in the show notes, but I'm doing this real old school thing where I'm going back to original social media. I'm not going to be like, find me on LinkedIn, da 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 da. You want to get me? No problem. 868-683-2442. iMessage, WhatsApp. Simple as that. And yes, Scott's like, oh my God, Scott, my number's been on the internet for the past 15 years on my website. Right? Oh, wait. I think I got that wrong. That was 20 years. Jeez, I'm getting old. I should know this by now. It's been on the internet for that long.
How do you know that you're not like, I get spam messages all the time. Hey, what's
And
up?
it's fun. I got a job offer the other day from a lady who said I was going to get paternity leave from Timu. I mean, come on. When you're in the middle of that meeting, Scott, with like a VP or somebody, isn't it refreshing to get like a whole scam going?
It is.
If I have time, I carry on the conversation.
That's what we have under the table for, Scott. I'm under the table there like, wait, this is real? So if I send you $5,000, you're going to get me 50? Oh, this is fun. Let's do it.
Well, Ernie, how can somebody get in touch with you if they wanted to after this?
You can find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best place to see me.
Fantastic. And how about you, Rob?
Hey, you can get me on LinkedIn, but I don't know. Lyle's got me rethinking this thing.
Hey, look, to be fair, I want to give credit to where credit was due. I was listening to some podcast sometime, and it was Ryan Leslie actually said that. He's this multi-platinum R&B artist, producer, like super savant kind of guy. And his number is out there. He has like a million contacts. Yeah. It's a real, like if you're into marketing and that kind of stuff, look up the whole Ryan Leslie story. He has this app. It's crazy. It's insane. But yeah, the number's out there.
It's Scott. How about you?
Text Lyle, and he'll reach out to me and let me know it. No, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on X, and I'm on Instagram, and you can find me in all kinds of places.
Well, and as for me, you can find me on LinkedIn, on the HETMA community, and each month here on AVNation's EdTech podcast that can be found on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also find other AVNation podcasts like Women in AV, AV Career Mastermind, State of Control, and more. And thank you for coming and listening or watching or whatever, however you consume this media, and we'll see you next time.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
Hi, this is Jennifer Goodyear
and Erica Carroll
from the Women in AV podcast, where we are encouraged by the incredible stories of women in AV.
Listen in on fun, empowering conversations as we chat with inspiring women, breaking barriers and creating their own path in the industry.
Check out Women in AV on avnation.tv or wherever you get your podcasts.